Good morning, everyone. This morning, we will be reading again from the middle length discourses, and I will put in the chat. It's number 125 in the middle length discourses. So I'm going to put how to find it. If you go to Sutta Central, just reminding those who go to Sutta Central, there it goes several times somehow. If you go to Sutta Central, you have to make it one, just no gaps in the numbers. So I'm going to start with Namo Tassa. I forget to do that sometimes, but this is important to take refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and this is where we believe these teachings are coming from. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Bhuttam Dhammam Sangham Namassami. So, good morning, all those who have checked in already, and those who are not visible, both visible and invisible. So this sutta is called The Grade of the Tamed, and I'm going to be looking both at Bhante Bodhi, Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation, is also Venerable Nyanamoli. I'm going to look at this translation, and then I'm also going to go to Sutta Central. I'm going to look at both. And I love to do a little bit of comparison. Danta Bhumi is translated as Grade of the Tamed. And Bhumi, I don't know, when I first saw the title, I thought it had to do with some kind of heavenly realm or something. And I got also, because Danta means tooth, and I thought it also needs tooth as well as training. And so I thought, tooth realm, what? But a Bhumi is a level of training, a level or a grade. So it's called level of the tamed is how Bhante Sujato has translated it, and I believe Bhante Bodhi says grade of the trained, like a gradation. Grade of the tamed. So I'll just start reading, and then it'll be apparent why it's named that in a short while. Excuse me. At one time, the Buddha was staying near Rajagaha in the bamboo grove, the squirrel's feeding ground. Now, at that time, the novice Achira Wata was staying in a wilderness hut. Then the prince Jayasena was going for a walk. He approached Achirawata and exchanged greetings with him. When the greetings and polite conversation were over, he sat down to one side and said to Achirawata, Master Agiva Sana, I have heard that the mendicant who meditates diligently, keenly, and resolutely can experience unification of mind. So Agiwasana is a clan name for some reason. He's still using that title to address the novice. So then the novice replies, "That's so true, Prince. That's so true. A mendicant who meditates diligently, keenly, and resolutely can experience unification of mind. Master Agiwesana, please teach me the Dhamma as you have learned and memorized it." I think Bhikkhu Bodhi says, "As you've mastered it." And I was trying to look up the difference in the word in it. I got a question mark, and the translator didn't know how to translate it. I would have had to resort to other means to find the answer. So, I am not competent to do so, Prince. For if I were to teach you the Dhamma as I have learned and memorized it, you would not understand the meaning, which would be wearying and troublesome for me. Master Agiwesana, please teach me the Dhamma as you have learned and memorized it. Hopefully I will understand the meaning of what you say. Then I will teach you. If you understand the meaning of what I say, that's good. If not, then leave each to his own and do not question me about it further. Master Agiwesana, please teach me the Dhamma as you have learned and memorized it. If I understand the meaning of what you say, that's good. If not, then I will leave each to his own and not question you about it further. So there's something in the notes about these two being old friends. And so one is a prince, and the other one is probably from a Brahmin clan, from the name. Then the novice, Achirawata, taught Prince Jayasena the Dhamma as he had learned and memorized it. When he had spoken, Jayasena said to him, "It's impossible, Master Agiwesana. It cannot happen that a mendicant who meditates diligently, keenly, and resolutely can experience unification of mind." So this is kind of so funny because he just promised he would leave the other to his own, and he's insisting on getting a teaching, and then he rejects it. So, having declared that it was impossible, Jayasena got up from his seat and left. Not long after he left, Achirawata went to the Buddha, bowed and sat down to one side, and informed the Buddha of all they had discussed. When he had spoken, the Buddha said to him, "How could it possibly be otherwise, Agiwesana?" So again, he's being called by his clan name for some reason. Prince Jayasena dwells in the midst of sensual pleasures, enjoying them, consumed by thoughts of them, burning with fever for them, and eagerly seeking more. It's simply impossible for him to know or see or realize what can only be known, seen, and realized by renunciation. So this might sound familiar from yesterday's reading, and we'll get into this a little bit more. So suppose there was a pair of elephants or a horse or oxen in training who were well tamed and well trained, and there was a pair who were not tamed or trained. What do you think, Agiwesana? Wouldn't the pair that was well tamed and well trained perform the tasks of the tamed and reach the level of the tamed? So this is the Danta Bhumi. Yes, sir. But would the pair that was not tamed and not trained perform the tasks of the tamed and reach the level of the tamed just like the tamed pair? No, sir. In the same way, Prince Jayasena dwells in the midst of sensual pleasures, enjoying them, consumed by thoughts of them, burning with fever for them, and eagerly seeking more. It's simply impossible for him to know or see or realize what could only be known, seen, and realized by renunciation. Suppose there was a big mountain not far from a town or village, and two friends set out from that village or town, lending each other a hand up the mountain. Once there, one friend would remain at the foot of the mountain while the other would climb to the peak. Then the one standing on the foot would say to the one on the peak, "My friend, what do you see standing there at the peak?" They'd reply, "Standing at the peak, I see delightful parks, woods, meadows, and lotus ponds." But the other would say, "It's impossible. It can't happen that standing at the peak you can see delightful parks, woods, meadows, and lotus ponds." So their friend would come down from the peak and take their friend by the arm and make them climb to the peak. After giving them a moment to catch their breath, they say, "My friend, what do you see standing here at the peak?" They replied, "Standing at the peak, I see delightful parks, woods, meadows, and lotus ponds." They'd say, "Just now I understood what you say. It's impossible. It cannot happen that standing at the peak you can see delightful parks, woods, meadows, and lotus ponds. But now you say, standing at the peak, I see delightful parks, woods, meadows, and lotus ponds." They'd say, "But my friend, it was because I was obstructed by this big mountain that I didn't see what could be seen." But bigger than that is the mass of ignorance by which Prince Jayasena is veiled, shrouded, covered, and engulfed. So this is the kind of extreme in the time of the Buddha, where the sensual indulgence amongst the rich, and it's in this society too. And he's consumed. There's the words again. They're being consumed and having a fever for, and just seeking more and seeking more. And renunciation, although he's speaking to a novice here, but I think that moderation. There are people that can live moderate lifetimes still engaged in the world. I mean, I don't think it's just either or. I don't think there's, and we'll get to something that Bhante J has pointed out a little bit later. I'll mention, but it is possible. But if one is their lifestyle is just really just centered around gratification, then it's impossible. So the Lord Buddha continues, "It wouldn't be surprising if, had these two similes occurred to you, Prince Jayasena would have gained confidence in you and shown his confidence." So he's saying that if these similes But sir, how could these two similes have occurred to me as they did to the Buddha, since they were neither supernaturally inspired nor learned before in the past? So he'd never heard these similes before, so how could he relate them to Prince Jayasena? And I just think this is kind of like a youth saying, well, how would I have known to say that? It's kind of a little bit of a retort to the Lord Buddha. Anyway, I thought that was kind of sweet. And then the Lord Buddha doesn't pause a minute, he just continues on teaching. Suppose Agi Visana, an anointed aristocratic king, were to address his elephant tracker. Please, good elephant tracker, mount the royal bull elephant and enter the elephant wood. When you see a wild bull elephant, tether it by the neck to the royal elephant. Yes, your majesty, replied the elephant tracker, and did as he was asked. The royal elephant leads the wild elephant out into the open. So he apprehends a forest elephant. This is where is it? Aranyakam Nagam. So Aranya is a wilderness or forest. And Naga is sometimes it's a supernatural being, kind of a dragon or something, but it's another name for an elephant. And so we would understand in this case that we're talking about elephants. So the wild elephant. So the royal elephant leads the wild elephant out into the open. And it is only then that it comes out into the open. For a wild bull elephant clings to the elephant wood. Then the elephant tracker informs the king, Sire, the wild elephant has come out into the open. Then the king addresses the elephant trainer. Please, my good elephant trainer, tame the wild bull elephant, subdue his wild behaviors, its wild memories and thoughts, and its wild stress, weariness, and fever. Make it happy to be within a village and instill behaviors congenial to humans. Yes, your majesty, replied the elephant trainer. He dug a large post into the earth and tethered the elephant to it by the neck so as to subdue its wild behaviors, its wild memories and thoughts, and wild stress, weariness, and fever, and to make it happy to be within a village and instill behaviors congenial to humans. He spoke in a way that's mellow, pleasing to the ear, lovely, going to the heart, polite, likable, and agreeable to people. Spoken to in such a way by the elephant trainer, the wild elephant wanted to listen. It lent an ear and applied its mind to understand. So the elephant trainer rewards it with grass, fodder, and water. When the elephant accepts the grass, fodder, and water, the trainer knows, now the wild elephant will survive. Then he sets a further task. Pick it up, put it down. So he's training to lift things, setting things down. When the wild elephant picks up and puts down, when the trainer says following instructions, the trainer sets a further. When the elephant picks up and puts down, when the trainer says, he follows the direction, following instructions, the trainer sets it a further task. Forward, sir. Back, sir. Bo, I guess this is what Bhante Sujato is translating as sir, but it's a familiar term. My dear, my friend. So It's interesting. He's saying bo is sir. And maybe a polite form of address to a friend. This little nuance to it that's not quite in the dictionary. It's like calling the elephant sir. When the wild elephant goes back and forth, when the trainer says, following instructions, the trainer sets it a further task. So this is all parallel to certain trainings. Stand, sir. Sit, sir. Telling them to stand and sit. When the wild elephant stands and sits when the trainer says, following instructions, the trainer sets the task called imperturbability. And some people might recognize this term, imperturbability. He fastens a large plank to its trunk. A lancer sits on its neck. Other lancers surround it on all sides. I guess that's somebody with holding lances, a lancer. Is that what you see there?
Holding a long lance.
Yeah, so the lancer is, I think that they're preparing the poor elephant for battle. But our battle is not against other human beings, but it's not against our kilesas. Okay. So when practicing the task, it doesn't budge its 4 feet or hind feet, its 4 quarters or hind quarters, its head, ears, tusks, tail, or trunk. The wild bull elephant endures being struck by spears, swords, arrows, and axes. It endures the thunder of drums, kettle drums, horns, and cymbals. Rid of all crooks and flaws and purged of defects, it's worthy of a king, fit to serve a king, and considered a factor of kingship. So this is how probably the Lord Buddha saw this kind of training, actually, because he was in a warrior class. So, and this is something that the people of his time would understand. This kind of training in the Agamas, in the Chinese version, they go into more detail of all these different kinds of trainings as far as training the mind. So in the same way, Agi Wasena, a realized one arises in the world, perfected and fully awakened Buddha, accomplished in knowledge and conduct, holy, knower of the world's supreme guide for those who wish to be trained, teacher of gods and humans, awakened, blessed. He realizes with his own insight in this world, with its gods, Maras and Brahmas, its population, with its ascetics and Brahmins, gods and humans, and he makes it known to others. He teaches the Dhamma that's good in the beginning, good in the middle, good in the end, meaningful, well phrased, and reveals a spiritual practice that's entirely full and pure. A householder hears that teaching, or a householder's child, or someone reborn in a good family. I think anyone, any human being, they gain faith in the realized one and reflect. Living in a house is cramped and dirty, but the life of one gone forth is wide open. So this is it's a stock teaching. It's repeated especially the part we recite in the morning now, the reflection on the Buddha and the Dhamma and the Sangha is not included in this part. It's not easy for someone living at home to lead the spiritual life of utterly pure, full and pure like a polished shell. Why don't I shave off my hair and beard and dress in ochre robes and go forth from lay life to homelessness? After some time, they give up a small or large fortune and a large or small family circle, and they shave off their hair and beard, if they have one, and dress in ochre robes and go forth from lay life into homelessness. It's only then that a noble disciple comes out into the open. For gods and humans cling to the 5 kinds of sensual stimulation. So this is 5 chords of sensuality, or the 5. How does Bhante Bodhi translate it a little bit?
Sensual pleasure.
Pardon me?
5 chords of sensual pleasure.
5 chords of sensual pleasure. Okay, thank you. Someone looking at Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation. So the 5 chords of, I like that because it's like chords are like, we're attached to these chords. He says 5 kinds of sensual stimulation. So we cling to these things. Then the realized one guides them further. So this is the elephant coming out of the elephant wood. And come, be ethical and restrained in the monastic code, conducting yourself well and seeking alms in suitable places, seeing danger in the slightest fault. Keep the rules you've undertaken. When they have ethical conduct, when they've mastered that, the realized one guides them further. Come, mendicant, guard your sense doors. When you see a sight with your eyes, don't get caught up with its features and details. So signs and features is how the Bhikkhu Bodhi has translated it. And so this is guarding the sense doors. If the sights, sounds, smells, touches, and the rising of mental formations, to not get overwhelmed by their appearance or something that's attractive. The signs and features, or he says features and details. So general appearance of something and then details like of another person is the example. This is somewhat, you see that it's a man or a woman, young and slim. Then you start looking at their hair and their, maybe they're wearing perfume or something. So there's like all these things that like are attracting you to another person, or the food, people prepare food in a certain way and that make it really look attractive. It's just like some dessert, and they do, little candies and, flowers and things like that. They do with pastries and, so you get overwhelmed and you eat something you don't really need, or you get involved with somebody that you shouldn't, or something like that. So this is not to not get overwhelmed by the signs and details. Not let them overwhelm the mind. Not let them invade your mind and remain in something that is phrases that's used. So So guard your sense doors. When you see a sight with your eyes, don't get caught up in the features and details, and the same with the other. And like I was talking about yesterday, really moderation is what is pointed out. If you look more closely at the teaching. So there's ellipsis here, and then there's so it's this gradual training starting out with a sila, which is ethics or ethical, and then for lay people that could be keeping the 5 precepts, sometimes keeping 8 precepts. There's moderation in eating, and then so in this other translation, it has more of the detail, but we did that meal reflection every day here, wisely reflecting. I eat all this food, not for fun, not for pleasure, only for maintaining the body and for helping with the spiritual life. So eating in moderation in sleep. This is devotion to wakefulness, and it does sound kind of extreme when you look at it, if you calculate the hours. But there's a lot of discussion about this one. It says, when the disciple is moderate in eating, so he's going step by step through these trainings, he disciplines and further. Come, bhikkhu, be devoted to wakefulness. Devoted to wakefulness. During the day, while walking back and forth and sitting, purify your mind of obstructive states. In the first watch of the night, while walking back and forth and sitting, purify your mind of obstructive states. In the middle watch of the night, you should lie down on the right side in lion's pose, with one foot overlapping another, mindful and fully aware after noting in your mind the time for rising. And then after rising in the last watch of the night, while walking back and forth and sitting, purify your mind from obstructive states. But I think the idea of wakefulness is including this purifying the mind. It's not just forcing yourself to stay awake. It's if you really think about that aspect of it, the wakefulness is the purity of mind, purifying the mind, being aware of the obstructive states. And I think to be moderate in sleep and just really to be sensitive to the needs, your needs. When somebody's on retreat and they're just walking back and forth and sitting, they don't have other responsibilities, this is what their life is about, then maybe they can reduce the amount of sleep to 4, but 4 hours of sleep. But that's kind of, this has been a topic of discussion amongst monastics as well as lay people. And I think you have to consider your health, age, various factors, stress levels. And some people require more sleep than others. So, for whatever reason. So, that's the ellipsis here, is going through these trainings. But I wanted to talk about bring that one up. So he's devoted to wakefulness. After he's devoted, I'm going to talk about this part too. When Ajivasena, the noble disciple, is devoted to wakefulness, then the Tathagata disciplines him further. Come, bhikkhu, be possessed of mindfulness and full awareness. Act in full awareness when going forward and returning, when looking ahead and looking away, when flexing and extending your limbs. So remember the elephant, he was a set up, put down, go forward, go back. This was a training of the elephant. In the Chinese translation, they correlate all these different trainings that the elephant was getting. So this is a mindfulness and full awareness. So this Sati Sampajanya and situational awareness is how Bhante Sujato translates this. There's a number of translations of that. So, be possessed of mindfulness and full awareness when flexing and extending your limbs, wearing your robes, and carrying your outer bowl, carrying your, outer robe and bowl. When eating, drinking, consuming food, tasting, when defecating, urinating, when walking, standing, sitting, falling asleep, waking up, talking, and keeping silent. So that's the tricky part, being mindful and fully aware when we're talking. Yeah. So this is a training that anyone can do. We can incorporate this into our daily lives. When Agiwasena, the noble disciple, possesses mindfulness and full awareness, then the Tathagata disciplines him further. Come, bhikkhu, resort to a secluded resting place. The forest, the root of a tree, a mountain, a ravine, a hillside, a cave, a charnel ground, a jungle thicket, an open space, a heap of straw. So after all this, finally they're going on retreat. They don't go on retreat at the very beginning. They have to. And then, he says, he resorts to a secluded resting place in the forest, a heap of straw, etc. On returning from his alms round after his meal, he sits down, folding his legs crosswise, setting his body erect and establishing mindfulness before him. Abandoning covetousness for the world, he abides with a mind free of covetousness. So that's an old-fashioned term having to do with greed. But it also is something that's not appropriate to us, I think is what's implied in Christian religion anyway. He purifies his mind from covetousness, abandoning ill will and hatred. He abides with a mind free from ill will, compassionate for the welfare of living beings. He purifies his mind from ill will and hatred, abandoning sloth and torpor. He abides free from sloth and torpor, percipient of light, mindful, and fully aware. He purifies, they purify the mind from sloth and torpor, abandoning restlessness and remorse. They abide unagitated with a mind inwardly peaceful. They purify the mind from restlessness and remorse. Abandoning doubt, they abide, having gone beyond doubt, unperplexed about wholesome states. They purify the mind from doubt. So that might sound familiar. What does that sound like?
A little bit of from yesterday.
This is the 5 hindrances. He's just purified his mind of he or she or they have purified the mind of the 5 hindrances. That's what which just been purified. Having thus abandoned these 5 hindrances, imperfections of the mind that weaken wisdom, they abide contemplating the body as the body, ardent, fully aware and mindful. Having put away covetousness and grief for the world, they abide contemplating feelings of feelings, mind as mind objects as mind objects. Bhante Sujato says principles. mental qualities, principles, ardent, fully aware, and mindful, having put away covetousness and grief for the world. So, what have I just said there?
Satipatthana.
Satipatthana. Ah, so in the sequence, often what's here is the jhanas. But here, he or she or they are starting the practice of the Satipatthana. And before even embarking on the practice, they've subdued at least the 5 hindrances. So if you're a student of the Satipatthana, take note here. You want to have success, then I would recommend sila, ethics, guarding the sense gates, moderation in eating, moderation in sleep, and then practicing the sati sampajanya, clear awareness in all activities, and then abandon the hindrances. So so it's in order to really be successful. And then I was going to mention what Monte J was saying. There's a sutta that's is it the horse trainer, or is it? You're looking at me. Do you remember the name of it? The one of the lay disciples comes to the Buddha and speaks about practicing the Satipatthana and how this is what you remember. You read this one.
So,
So,
no, I don't.
he doesn't.
The thoroughbred horse.
Yeah. Anyway, so there are suttas where the lay people also are doing these practices. So it's not you're not excluded if you're not in robes yet. Say yet. If you get seriously into this practice, your hair may disappear. Your style of dress might change. Anyway, so watch out. It might be a side effect. Getting deep into this practice. Okay. All right, we're getting close though. Just as Adiwasena, the elephant tamer, plants a large post in the earth and binds the forest elephant to it by the neck in order to subdue his forest habits and to inculcate in him habits congenial to human beings, so too the 4 foundations of mindfulness are the bindings for the mind of the noble disciple in order to subdue his habits based on the household life, to subdue memories and intentions based on the household life, to subdue distress, fatigue, and fever based on the household life, in order that he may attain the true way and realize Nibbana. Then the Tathagata disciplines them further. Come, bhikkhu, abide contemplating the body as a body, but do not think thoughts of sensual desire. Abide contemplating feelings as feelings, mind as mind objects as mind objects, but do not think thoughts of sensual desire. With the stilling of applied and sustained thought, he or she or they enter upon and abide in the 2nd jhana, the 3rd jhana, the 4th jhana. And this would take a very long time in discussion to talk about why. If you've noticed, the 1st jhana is not there, other than you get so deep with the Satipatthana practice that you go directly into the second jhana at a certain point. And you're not, and then vitaka vichara is translated as thought. So you've abandoned vitaka. You've abandoned which, and then vichara is sometimes translated as examination, but it's also translated as thought. So these are jhanic factors that appear in first jhana, the first absorption. And so the person has gone directly into the second jhana. When his or her or their mind concentrated mind is purified, and then it goes into ellipsis. So this person attains arhatship. He has the three knowledges and attains arhatship. And then maybe I will just kind of summarize the end. So he's able to endure all kinds of hardships and heat, cold, hunger, and so on, ill-spoken words, and painful feelings. And so none of this is going to bother this person. They're arhat, so they're imperturbable. And so it talks about the grade of the tamed here again. And if a king's elephant dies in old age untamed, then they're considered an old untamed elephant. But if they die tamed, they're reckoned or considered the grade of the tamed, and the same of the young elephant. And so if you die young, if a bhikkhu dies young, well-tamed, they're considered a young, well-tamed bhikkhu. Anyway, so no matter when you die, if you haven't applied yourself to the training, then you'll die untamed. And this is taming our own minds and training our own minds. And there are a lot of similes that point to this, that this is a training that we undertake ourselves and with the help of others. And it's a gradual training. And I think, like I was trying to say, it can be adaptable to lay life. It doesn't, the most fertile ground for cultivation is supposed to be in robes. But people who aren't applying themselves in robes and just kind of hanging out in robes, this is why he was talking at the end. You die an old bhikkhu without training yourself. You die, your mind has not been tamed. You can be reckoned an untamed bhikkhu, or you could be. There's lay disciples in the suttas, which may be encouraging to see, who have high attainments. So Sotapanna and Anagami, non-returner, stream entering, non-returner. So, and also practicing Satipatthana, also getting higher states of meditative states. There's find it in the suttas. So I'm going to see if there was something related to the sutta as a question. The meaning of Buddha is awake, the awakened one. And that's an epithet for someone asked, what's the meaning of Buddha? means he was awake. He awakened. Does anyone have a question here? We have a few minutes that you want to. Yes, Jeff.
I feel like I struggle with this simile somewhat because I feel like if I were an elephant, I would prefer to be a wild elephant. And I forget what the elephant tamer is in this metaphor, but I would just want to avoid them altogether and not be captured.
Right. It is a metaphor. And there was that metaphor of the chariot, which might be a little bit friendlier, and then they train horses. There's horse tamers. And let's say you have a team of horses and they're untrained, right? And you have your cart or chariot hitched to these untrained horses, and then they're going to pull you here or there, or they want to go out to the grass. The strongest horse is going to pull you where it wants to go.
That simile feels like more intuitive to me.
Yeah. So this whole thing, I think part of the idea is that it is not necessarily going to be, I mean, it's not necessarily going to be easy or pleasurable to go to. And just even sitting, the fact that we sit still on a cushion for a length of time, that's uncomfortable. That's a particular training, and you have to endure a certain amount of discomfort. The mind is uncomfortable, the body is uncomfortable. You know, you notice itches that you never noticed before if you were reading a book or, you know, checking your whatever online. You know, you get absorbed into something like that, and your leg might fall asleep, or you might be in a lot of pain, and then you get up and you go, "Oh my gosh, my back hurts," or something. You know, because you're not paying attention, right? So when you're sitting on the cushion, this is kind of like the training of the imperturbability, or you're sitting still and you're not moving, and you might, especially in the meditation hall, you have the peer support, you don't want to move, and your knee is like hurting, and you think, oh, I'm gonna die, my knee is hurting so much, and then you get up and it's okay after a couple of minutes. It's like yeah, we've been through this a few times. Then you start realizing, okay, that's too bad. It's just pain. It'll go away. Or you take care for yourself. Don't hurt yourself and force yourself to. But yeah, it's not necessarily a comfortable training. And we are taking ourselves out of what what he said was that humans and gods cling to the 5 chords of sensual pleasures. So this is where our orientation isn't towards gratifying the senses anymore, where our orientation is towards training our minds, becoming more peaceful, becoming more awake, aware, wise. So we're giving up what seemed like desirable. And if you were actually just living in the forest, you'd see how difficult it would be just to be out in the wilds. It's not an easy thing either. Although that's what the elephant is used to. That's what the elephant is, you know. And yeah, it does sound mean to taking the lances and tom-toms, and you know, that seems kind of mean. I wouldn't do that to an animal, but they're trained in imperturbability, and that was the metaphor where the mind becomes perturbable. It's not shaken by exterior things and interior things. So I don't see any questions here. So I know I've chosen challenging. The Buddhist teachings are they're often quite challenging because there's a I don't know if they're still calling themselves this. That there's a group called Against the Stream, right? So we're going against the stream, the common stream, before entering the stream. We're going against the current of humanity, what most people think is pleasurable, wonderful, and you start seeing, oh, well, actually, it isn't. And then you look for a higher happiness, a higher, more peaceful states of mind. Did you have anything to comment, or either one of you? Or corrections, comments?
No.
I'm just checking with the venerables here.
Teddy liked it.
For me?
Teddy liked it.
Teddy is oblivious. The cat, or the cat is sitting here with us. I think, yes.
It's really, I mean, I'm not familiar with these texts that I've been hearing a lot since I've been here, and it's really astounding how much emphasis there is on preservation of energy and like right direction of energy and wakefulness, not like even like there's, it seems like there's a part of like this code, there's this like subtext that's about, you know, we're training, but training in a way that's not exhausting. Almost like it's better, like in the order from like Bhikkhu Bhante J was talking about an order last night of like, well, first you recognize, if you can recognize a thought, if you can see it, and almost always that's enough to kind of deal with it, and you don't get caught up in it. And then there's this like progression of, if it's so entrenched that being aware of a thought doesn't help you deal with it, doesn't let it go away, then you get more and more aggressive with it, you know, kind of clench up around it. But the idea is to be able to letting go is the best way of kind of preserving your inner resources to kind of have an energized, wakeful, concentrated state that you can sustain in the long run. There's this kind of ultimate goal of being able to, of this like sustained wakefulness. And is that the case? That is like a kind of a higher priority than flashes of insight and then is the goal to have more of a sustained enough concentration than flashes of insight back to and then descending back into kind of dullness? Or
Well, I don't know that's particularly either or, where talking about sustaining energy and conserving mental energy
Right.
by all this talking about moderation, eating and sleeping, and
Yeah.
but also how you deal with the mind, and you try to use the most moderate means to abandon the unwholesome
Right.
mental states. So then there's the stability of mind, uh, unification of mind, peacefulness of mind. But it's said that I've heard people say that if you have a really deep, penetrating insight, it's going to have a really strong impact on you. I've just read like Ajahn Chah talking about the world seems like it's turned upside down or something all of a sudden. I think you can have insights where it's a aha, and it's like really clear, and it's something you won't forget. But then there's these really deep, earth-shaking kind of insights, but they make a lasting impression on you. It's just you won't forget it. It may be even why the Lord Buddha uses kind of shocking similes. It's like this is putting this really deep imprint on your mind by having this really shocking kind of a simile. And even though you won't forget it, So this is a kind of insight that may happen, but it's not like, it's not like you want excitement and thrills and light shows and things like that. Although deep states of meditation might be, it's a deep impact. And maybe it's not like excitement kind of thing, because it's the mind is in a deeper, calmer state.
Yeah.
But it's still like, something that you haven't experienced before. So it's makes a really deep impact on the mind. So, and then there are, they're described as deep states of rapture and bliss and things like that. But it's energetic. It's not sapping you of energy.
Right.
You're not, I guess, because the mind, because there's no conflict in the mind. The mind is unified, so there's no conflict in the mind. I don't know if that's answering your question, but I don't know the ultimate direction. The ultimate is nibbana. So this extinguishing all greed, hate, and delusion is the simplest way to describe that. So it's not some kind of, not seeking excitement or, it's not the end all. The more blissful states, it's not the end all for but the insights, those deep insights will stay with the person. So I hope that is helpful.
Yeah.
And I don't want to discourage anybody by some of these readings I've been saying. Like I was saying, that if you look in, especially there's a section on householders in the connected discourses, and quite a few householders are they've attained stream entry or anagami, non-returner. So I don't want to be discouraging. Middle way, gradual path. So I offer this for your reflection.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu to all of you too. And we'll close for now.